in my neighborhood, like the street legends, people like storyboard and stuff like that. So you looking at people that's like super unreal. Like that's the things in the hood that you like. Nah, that looks crazy. If I ever see somebody like on my block, like yeah, I mean, it was very intentional. I feel like with Litefeet, when we came into it, especially me, Litefeet for a lot of people was just anything. Like people were calling everything Litefeet. You'll be tutting, it's like that's Litefeet, or you'll be. And then they used to run this phrase where it's like, yeah, Litefeet is such a good dance style because you can mix everything with Litefeet. Like you can Litefeet and be a crumper, but it's still Litefeet. Like a lot of people at that time didn't really know what they were talking about. It was just like people just running off the mouth. But then it got to a point where there was just a lot of pushback to the infancy of the dance. So a lot of people just felt like it wasn't like real dancing, or it didn't have any like skills to it. And there were skills present at the time, but because a lot of people were prioritizing just being versatile and doing so much things, you couldn't really see like what made Litefeet the outside of just the hype. So a couple of us just started to ask questions about what is Litefeet. A lot of people weren't teaching Litefeet either. Like there was no one coming to take classes. There was no Litefeet workshops like that at that time. So when the question was asked what was Litefeet, we always got multiple answers. And this was really a lot of like, again, the Brooklyn Litefeeters or some of the younger Litefeeters uptown reaching out to some of the first Litefeeters that started and trying to figure out like, okay, this is now getting to the place where it's about to be a legitimate dance style. Like what is our vernacular, and like what are our methods, and like what makes us stand out. And a lot of people didn't really have the answer at the time. They would just like say certain things that sounded familiar, but then we would see it in other styles, and it started to just fade for us. It wasn't until a point where it was actually multiple points, but one pivotal point, at least for me, was there was this video of this dude named B-Boy Midas, Man of 1,000 Threads. And I remember seeing that video and I was like, damn, this dude is doing everybody's Litefeet round. Like what do we really have? Because he was doing the threads, he was doing like the knee drops, he was doing the power moves. Virtually everything you may have seen like from the Dark Wars era and a little bit before, but he was just B-boying. So it already clicked like, okay, there's an element of this where a lot of Litefeeters gravitate towards more of the high impact B-boy break power move type of aesthetic because it leads up to that big lock-in. But that aesthetic, as much as it's relatable and can connect to Litefeet, it doesn't really answer the question of like what Litefeet is as a style. But then even on our side, I got into Litefeet and my first style of Litefeet was shoe tricking. Like I used to only do shoe tricks, and then I started to try to dibble and dabble into like other things in Litefeet and try to like find creative ways of trying to just expand myself within Litefeet. But like 2-3 years in, I got into animation, and I was kind of like, yo, if I'm a dance, like this is how I want to dance. Like I want that illusionary aesthetic of like looking unreal. Like that spoke to me a lot. But I was still in the place of like trying to figure out what Litefeet was as well. So for me, a lot of mixing with my Litefeet was like me throwing tutting in there, throwing animation in there, but then that wasn't even really Litefeet either because a lot of it was moving like with my upper body. And then at the time, a lot of animated references was very upper body centric. And if the dance is called Litefeet, but I'm like in a round tutting like for like the whole 2 minutes, it's like, how is that Litefeet? So challenging myself and saying like, okay, if it's Litefeet, then what are we really doing with our feet that makes things distinct? And then even making a distinction from getting light, because getting light started to really be associated with just the things that we do when we party. So it's like, what's Litefeet for us? And we broke down a couple of things like the ankle bending and the shoe tricks and some of the tic-tac-toes and just the way we kind of connect movement, like just that whole chain reaction domino effect of how we like isolate our legs. And then there was this really interesting aesthetic because most battles that y'all have, and even battles like outside of Litefeet, it's filmed from anywhere. And most of the dancers don't prioritize the camera. Like they're battling like in the circle to a person, whereas Litefeet, a large majority of our battle footage is predicated on like someone facing the camera.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
And if you notice, because it's like that, the torso of a Litefeeter is always like 12 o'clock, while their legs are doing a whole bunch of other things. And to me, it created this visual that almost has like a Litefeet aesthetic where our torsos have to be here. Now, granted, the plane can move in different places and turn and alternate, but it's always kind of almost very boxy in the beginning until you kind of get a free flow and know how to like break out of that. But I noticed that stood out with a lot of Litefeeters, especially when they battled. So the footwork, a lot of the domino effect, chain reaction, like footwork. And then it kind of had like this weird Rube Goldberg machine kind of thing, because Litefeeters would do like a very intricate, like isolated foot and ankle combo. And all of these intricate moves will lead up to this one like move that is really big, but it's just very simple. And I always like connected that to like Rube Goldberg machines. So that for me started to be like what Litefeet was. And then what wrapped it all together was the timing that we was on, that and count timing of like taking simple moves and putting it on that timing and being able to play within that timing. Those things always made Litefeet distinct for me, in addition to like all our traditional dances and our traditional steps and stuff like that. So that's what led us to kind of like start to say, okay, this is called that, that's called this, or we used to call that, let's expand on what that means, because we really wanted to like have something that we can call our own, and then also have something where we could kind of like be prideful in, because I felt like the outside dance worlds, because they were saying that Litefeet was so less than, it started to make Litefeeters not take the Litefeet style serious, and they'd maybe just prioritize the energy and prioritize the hype, because it's all about having fun. And I mean, obviously we all having fun, but there's more to just having fun that's actually going on in this community. So we did a lot of that just to kind of like put some respect on our name for ourselves and really feel empowered for being Litefeeters and not just being like people that just get crazy and get hype and jump everywhere, you know?
We're not keeping none of this in. All right.
Okay.
So, guys, we're back in. There may or may not have been a problem with the mic, so you may not have heard my
Is that what
introduction.
you're going to blame it on?
What do you mean I'm going to... Well, you're a witness here. I've got the camera footage, even if the fucking mics didn't pick up. Anyway, so we're rolling with it. It's all good. At least you heard what these two lovely guests said. What were we on? What was the last thing we were talking about?
I think it was like...
Oh, the like naming the steps and
naming
everything.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Because you said you were teaching in a university, right?
Yeah, now.
But are you teaching Litefeet or what sort of thing are you teaching?
No. So originally, I actually was a replacement for another friend who didn't take the job. But it's this course that they were implementing in this new school in the dance department called Embodied African Aesthetics.
Okay. And
they basically had like a range of different like traditional African dances and or like new African dances that exist within that space. Like some people are teaching like Afro-Latin jazz and like, or maybe like African dance from like West Africa. So they just wanted like the street dance portion representing like Black Americans and stuff like that. So I'm in there essentially representing the street dance and teaching like a myriad of things. So the culminating thing is like really honing in on animation, but we go through like hip hop, we go through Litefeet, we're going through like foot control, and then eventually talking about body control, talking about animation and stuff like that. And essentially just giving them like my journey, like from my perspective, like an introduction into the street dance world, but then from like an animated perspective, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But it's like the goal with that course is like to make it like all connect. Like that's the one thing that they want the courses to pride themselves on. It's like you're proficient in all of these things. Let's teach all these things throughout a semester. But how do they all connect and how do they all relate to each other? And can you be able to articulate that? It's very much so like educating students and like giving them the information as well as teaching them the dances and having them learn the dances.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess like you were probably already pretty established as a Litefeet dancer when you started there.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like the similar sort of thing where when you're teaching at a university, you can't just kind of be like, just feel it, guys. Like
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
break it down in an
Yeah.
academic way almost. And I guess that's similar to what you were saying about having to look at Litefeet and go, all right, what is it? And how do we
Yeah.
like, it's not about us knowing that we're doing Litefeet or any style for that matter, but it's like, it's about when we translate this to other people,
Yeah.
how do we articulate what we're doing and what it is or isn't, I guess.
No, 100%. And having to be kind of like, in some respects, like hip to things outside of our dance culture. Like,
Yeah.
I know musically, I've in the past have even seen like, I've been in situations where I've been talking to like, let's say a musician, and I'll be speaking to them from like a dancer's perspective on music, and they'll be like, no, that's not it. You know what I mean? And then having to like understand like what time of the music we're on, and
Yeah.
like how we even utilizing the music, what things are we not utilizing to be able to articulate that in a class, so people who may be music majors or music minors in college can understand that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, and then so I guess I'm trying to like connect the lineage, I guess, but like when you were teaching, is there stuff that from your perspective, and because you've obviously had a lot of experience as a dancer and a teacher before you even learned Litefeet, right? So there's like things that you've built in. So when you kind of picked it up, was there stuff that you're like, yeah, guys, I need to clarify this because I would usually teach by doing this, but you're like, I need to go and ask questions to figure out these things? Or was it kind of pretty well packaged when you got it? Or what was the process of that like?
It was exactly that. So, like our boy Richie, he was the one that took me in the first time I came for a month.
Yeah.
And he wasn't teaching at the time, like he didn't have a class. Since then, he has had a class on and off and stuff, and he teaches people privately. So he was trying to show me stuff, and he'd be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like saying numbers, trying to get me to get it.
Yeah.
Or trying to like, he's trying to explain stuff, which when he demonstrates it, it doesn't make sense to what he's saying to me.
Right.
So then it ended up me being like, just do it a sec. And then luckily, because I'm experiencing dance, I was able to like, right, his body did this, his weight was there, and it sort of helped me make sense of it. Solo was a bit more like, Solo's E-Solo, for those that don't know. He was a bit more like used to teaching and had broken stuff down. So that was a bit easier for me to make sense of. But then same time, when he started showing me variations of stuff and times were different, like he wasn't counting it or saying it as we would. So it was again like me trying to juggle it.
Yeah.
Kinen and Crybaby both did have a class,
Right.
and that was a weekly thing, so they were used to it. So then when I attend their class, it
Everything
was kind of
was
like,
it.
I can breathe, I can absorb it.
Yeah.
And then when I first went to teen night, I met Mr. YouTube. He was like down to share some stuff and super open, but again, he'd never taught before, so he did some stuff at me, and I'm like, how do I do this? Like,
Yeah.
I remember being like, no one really was in Jamaica Queens apart from Richie, which where I was staying. So I remember when I'd be taking the train home or by myself, I'd be on that train like stressing, trying to get stuff, because it was like, yeah, it was really difficult. And it's like, fortunately over the years, like there's so much more opportunities, so like they can all teach, and there's different stuff happening, because it's partly because they hadn't learned it in that way. So of course they don't know the counts, or because they've never. Whereas with all of the styles we do, we've learned
In
like,
a class setting.
Yeah, so like even if I'm not a teacher, I've been told that that's on a 4.
Yeah.
So like, whereas for them, they just do this.
Yeah.
And then because there's more interest of it, and then the studios are like, oh, maybe we'll put on a Litefeet class and and so now there's the opportunity. So much more of them are like teaching and making things easier. But I think that's also how I was lucky and had a bit more, like, you know, it's that kind of luck thing. Like, if I hadn't have danced like I had before I found them, maybe I wouldn't have picked it up like I did. Because there's loads of international people that went to New York before me, and I don't know whether they just didn't have the same love, or like they've just not stuck with it or whatever, or it's because they weren't able to sort of
Pick it up as well.
the same way. Because
right.
the people that I sort of compare myself to, Izza's Kun, Miss Izzy,
Yeah.
and she's a dope locker and hip hop dancer. And then Emily Brooklyn,
Yeah.
we all know her as a fire battler. So then when they went to New York and tried to learn it, it's like their body, yep, I can see it, got it. Like,
right. So they were able to pick it up super easily without yeah.
And I'm not trying to like diminish the difficulty of life. I'm just saying, like, as trying to learn the foundations, like,
No, yeah. Well, it's like anything. It's like if you're like, because you know, even in, I can speak more on like the choreo scene in the UK when I first started, because that's what I did mostly. And it's like teachers weren't really trying to teach, like, because a lot of the choreo teachers then were like dancers that were professional dancers. Now there's like a thing where you can be like just a teacher, like you just make routines and travel teaching, but I don't think there was as much of that then. So I think there was more people that were like professional dancers who also taught a class, right? So then it's like if you go to the class, in their head it's, you know, I'm speaking on my experience of it, but it's not about let's all have a great time and you're going to learn stuff and you're going to feel good. It's like, pick up this routine in an hour. If you're lucky, good luck, have fun, peace. Like, and it was like, I ain't repeating shit. It was a bit more like hardcore like that. So in that sense, it's like you did have to develop a sense of like picking up the thing, even if the teacher's not trying to repeat stuff. It's like, okay, well, next time they run it, I'm just going to watch and I'm going to be like, all right, yeah, no, I thought it was right, left, now it's left, right, you know, whatever. And it's like, if the teacher's not really like spoon feeding you the information, which now we're kind of used to, it's like, no, do a hit in popping like this. No, do it again. I'll come over and do one-on-one like tuition in the middle of the class. You know, if people aren't trying to do that, you do have to do like what you said. You have to, it takes a skilled dancer to be able to pick up stuff in that way, you know. So yeah, I mean that's not easy to be able to do that, especially with something that's like, it's not even in a class setting. A lot of these things, it's like you're watching it at like a party or a battle or something like that, and then they're like, okay, now you do it, and you're like, oh shit.
So, just to like digress, like my first learning experience when I got to New York, so I arrived in the evening, Richie picked me up from the airport, we went to his place.
Yeah.
The morning he had work, so he's like, Solo's gonna meet you at my work and you're just gonna chill, dance. So we go to Zara where he was working. Solo comes along, meet him, cool. We then sit at a like table and chairs outside in the park. People are all there in their suits having meetings, people on the phone, like parents there, like it's just a busy place, everyone's at table and chairs. And then Solo's like, right, cool. Gets out his speaker, just plays it, and it's like just starts dancing and being like, yeah, this, and I'm just like, wait, I'm learning now, like,
yeah.
Like it was just such a like, oh,
like thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, this is how it's gonna be, and yeah, and even like it even continued when I was now like returning to New York, and same when I would come to your old place, like, and it's like, right, we're coming to your house, we're gonna dance.
Yeah.
Go to Cry House, we're gonna dance. Going like Swiss's house, we're gonna dance. Like, yeah.
It's just really like on the fly.
Yeah, on the spot.
Yeah. Which I guess is like the kind of what it's more supposed to be, like the more like cultural aspect of dance, like, you know, like picking stuff up at your friend's place or in a party or whatever, like, you know, as opposed to like, all right, let's all meet at the studio. And
the dope thing is the years I came, they still had teen night, which is basically like our Trocadero.
Oh, cool.
The difference is Trocadero was just like a random space that was there all the time.
Yeah.
Teen night was like set nights, there'd be practice.
Is that where you had the Second Life as?
No. By the time you came, Trocadero closed, so we lost.
Yeah, it was like there's a big building in real like center of London, like Piccadilly Circus, and it was an arcade. And it was like when I was a kid, it was like a famous arcade, like 4-level thing. Bless you. And then at the very bottom, it was like the basement. And when I was growing up, there was like games and stuff there. But for some reason, I think maybe someone bought it or something. But just randomly, basically, they converted the whole bottom into just this open space. I don't even think it was supposed to be for dancers. It was just a big open space with like this type of floor and plug sockets basically. And then I think somebody discovered like you could just go there and plug your speaker in and they'd let anyone hang out there and stuff during the days. And it became like a dance hotspot. Everyone would go there and train. It was a bit of a nightmare at times.
Yeah. And I did have
5 different speakers playing in like
Hell.
yeah, there was loads, but you could run an event there. Like there was you didn't have to like book the space out or anything really. You just show up there and run shit. And then they opened a shop at one end of it, and it was like there would be like streetwear stuff in there sometimes. And yeah, it was a pretty cool space for a while. It was nice to have like
the crazy thing with teen night, because it's meant to be as like a youth sort of thing.
Yeah.
You arrive, you sign in to the book,
Yeah.
You go through to the training space and they hand you like a cookie and a bottle of water. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like
That's cute.
free for everyone. And I'm like, what?
It's like a youth club kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not paying anything, and you're
And-
offering me stuff. Like, what?
Yeah. I feel like youth clubs here are a bit dead. Like, did you ever go to one?
Nah, they were fully dead. Compared
It was
to
like a place where it was like an old room, and it would have a pool table in the middle, and it's like, yeah, kids, stay off the street, come here, and it's like, no, that's like,
Yeah. We had the like a lot of our youth centers, like especially ones like Teen Night, they're like attached to the housing projects or like the tenement houses.
Oh, nice.
So they would have like computer labs and like little video game labs. So like what you would see is like Teen Night, that room, but there's like mad other rooms that have like computer places, like game places where there's like kids that could just go do
Oh, that's
all
dope.
that other stuff. So I think that used to draw a lot of kids into like after schools, especially when I was a kid where we had City Kids. City Kids was cool because it was one of the first after school programs. Most of them are borough centered. So it's like if you're from the Bronx, you go to like a Bronx center. If
Sure.
you're from Brooklyn, you go to Brooklyn center. But City Kids was like all 5 boroughs. You can be from anywhere and go there. On top of that, instead of like a cookie and like a water, you get like freshly baked like Starbucks like
Oh, wow.
goods. Like they would have like scones and everything there right at the front. So you sign in and you get like freshly baked Starbucks like donut or something like that. And then they had like a computer room like most centers, but then downstairs they had a dance space and then they had a production studio. So you can
That's
literally go there
wild.
and like make beats or like edit videos and like film and stuff like that. Like they had so
Oh,
much
damn.
things.
And how do you get like you can just anyone can
Just
go?
walk in. At the time you could just walk in. It was a very well known community center back in like the 80s. Apparently Keith Haring, like he designed the whole inside. So when we used to go there,
No
we used to
way.
see all his like exclusive paintings. Like he had this big snake that went across the whole wall.
Like he did by hand.
He did it by hand, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
And then he did the safe space in the downstairs. So like the logo itself was like designed by him, the City Kids logo. So you would
That's
go
cool
in
as
there
shit.
and like over time I think it had like its ebbs and flows, but by
Yeah.
the time we started going there, like it was getting like up again and it started getting like real popular. And then right on time too, because the Litefeet community, like that was their space
Yeah.
for us to do like sessions and stuff like that. And I used to actually do like little after school battles because for our jams, the funny thing is that for y'all, it's like you pay money, you enter a contest, and like you could possibly win money back.
Yeah.
For Litefeet battles, it's like you pay money to possibly battle, or if you're on the battle list, you still pay money,
Yeah.
but you're like you could be like the main event of the battle. Like everybody's coming to see you, but you still gotta pay
Oh,
to
wow.
get in.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you win or lose, like you get nothing. Like your video
Oh,
just
really?
goes on YouTube.
But what was that like? Were people fine with that? Or like
I mean, a lot of us at the time didn't really know you can make money from winning battles.
Sure.
So for us, it's just like, okay, YouTube rep word.
Mm.
But it was difficult for like every single Litefeet dancer to get a battle that day. So one of the ideas I had with the after school is that there was a lot of kids who either wasn't gonna get a battle that weekend, or they were like too young to even go out on the weekend. So after school was the only time they can be like, all right, I got like this window between like 3 and 6 before I gotta
Yeah.
be home. And this is the only center I go to. So I was like, let me provide them like at least a pre-battle. So like I'll film y'all battling, and then y'all could have like, this could be like y'all little after school like battle zone.
Sick.
And then the main stuff can happen for kids who can go there. So it was really nice for like kids to come after school and be like, yo, can I battle today? I gotta be home by 5. I'm like, yeah, just sign
Oh,
your
that's
name
dope.
up. So like a lot of little kids got their name up. Like people like Errol Ace started there. People like Richie started there. A lot of them got their start there, and now they're all grown and like well-known Litefeet dancers.
that's sick.
Yeah.
If like, because it was Ruthless before that, like, and if we had that, people wouldn't be dancing, because then I would say the stories, like people would turn up. D. Cole's one of the organizers who had an event, and people be like, yo, like, can I battle? Can I get a battle? Can I get a battle? And like he's just like, no, like he's just gonna say you versus you, and like that's.
But
the
it
battle.
wasn't like pre-organized like the weeks before. It's like everyone who shows
Some
up.
events they
Some
do
of them
that,
was, yeah.
But as the regular, it's just like whoever shows up on the day, he's
Yeah.
gonna pick you, and you are gonna battle. Go.
And if I don't know you,
and then
get
say
in the
you
look.
keep bugging him, and he doesn't know who you are. He'll be like, right, cool, but then he's gonna call the best dancer
Yeah,
out.
put you against, like,
And
the best dude.
and then
Oh,
then you would just get cooked for your first battle ever in front of everyone.
Hey, you asked for
And-
it.
and then people would just be like, so, and think how like delicate the scene is here. If Imagine that.
Oh
happening.
yeah.
And some people were like legit. I mean, again, it's the rise of YouTube. Like when we saw the numbers that people could do on YouTube, we didn't even know money was coming out of YouTube either. We just saw the fame of just like people commenting and saying you're good. A lot of people would take those battles, get smoked just to be like, yeah, I was there. Look at me on YouTube, like straight up.
And I guess also like speaking of YouTube, like Litefeet is kind of like the dance of like the internet. I feel like now, like with the like a lot of the TikTok stuff. I mean, fucking Chris Brown doing it, and like all the there's a lot of viral clips. I think like a lot of people on the trains and shit as well.
Even, like we're seeing it viral again now.
Yeah.
But before that, Litefeet was the first viral dance on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the original channels got deleted.
Yeah.
So all of the old channels from back then. So now you can find old stuff, and a lot of people save their battles.
Yeah,
So like there are old battles, but
Sure.
there used to be channels full of it, which were all like Mr. YouTube got his name because he was popular on YouTube.
Sure.
And AG, the we call him the creator of Litefeet. He had said, "Oh, you're the kid from YouTube, Mr. YouTube." Like that's how big it was. Like
Right.
noticed from it.
Yeah.
So what's the like? I guess the view on the virality of Litefeet? Is it kind of like a, I don't know how to say it, because I feel like sometimes like dance goes viral on like, you know, with like hip hop or popping or something like that, and it's like, you know, like I don't know if you get this, but like your mom or your auntie will send you a video like, oh, have you seen this? And it's just like not. It's like it's someone that went viral, but they suck. And it's like oh, like world's greatest popper, and I'm like, I no, it's not. Like, you know what I mean? And but it's like, I guess with Litefeet, are the people that are you're seeing viral and stuff, is a lot of people like, oh, sick, like we're going viral, or are they like, fuck these people that are like, you know, like they're not the real people? I don't know. You know what I mean?
I feel like for me, I had a moment where I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is weird. But then, like, again, Litefeet kind of has waves, because I remember in the early 2000s when I didn't know nothing about Litefeet, like I would see just a whole bunch of like Harlem Shaking videos on BET, and I'd be like, and it's kids from the city. And then it died down. And then 2005, Chicken Noodle Soup comes out, and it's kids from the city. So I think they always had like very viral moments.
I mean, that shit was here. Like, I remember when I was a kid, because I used to play basketball a lot.
Right.
And we grew up on like the N1 mixtapes and shit.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these dancers, it's like they're doing, not dancers, players are like doing tricks or something, and then they're like doing little
Harlem
dances,
Shake,
doing little chicken noodle soup and stuff. So when we were like doing this stuff like in parties and stuff, because we were like, oh yeah, that's the song from the thing. But it's like crazy. It's like my group of friends who I play basketball with, we were doing a lot of this shit.
It was the same for us too. There was a point in time where like Chicken Noodle Soup and all those uptown dances, like it felt far away from even being from Brooklyn. Like I did not know that like I was this close to like that community.
Yeah.
So now that it's viral again, it's kind of the same thing, because it's like certain people, for them, Litefeet is like Millie Rock, a couple Wops, and then they got like all the like verbiage, like it's like hit the heel toe and wop for me, and like they do like the TikToks where they do all the steps and all the moves.
Right.
I definitely feel like now it's like fun for the kids to get a part of, and it's very harmless now. So I don't have too much like issue with it or whatever, and I still feel like a lot of that belongs with the Get Light community, and it really like sheds light on like how a lot of the youth in New York City, they're always like dancing and they're always fresh and active, and that's always a beautiful thing for me. And I feel like people now kind of are able to distinguish like, all right, that's like the Get Light, like having fun, and like this is Litefeet, this is like the art of it, this is like the art that comes out of it, kind of like clowning, and then there's crumping. Like there's clowning where people like are clowning and having a good time, and then there's like crump where it's like, all right, it's art, it's serious.
It's like almost like the elite technicians of the community.
Yeah, exactly. I really believe
that's
that.
a nice way to think of it.
Yeah,
I like
really
that.
believe like the Get Light is like when you just having fun, having a good time. I have moments where I'm just chilling, you know, me and Janelle could be hanging out and I'll just start getting like just having like a good time. But like when it's time to like really
in on
like tap in.
Yeah.
You tap into the Litefeet aesthetics for sure.
I think that's like, for me, that's what I love that, and that's what I love about Litefeet, because it's like I feel like that's something that we almost suck out of other styles. Is like it's like there's so much, and I understand why, because I think we spoke about this a little bit last night. But like I feel like here and in Europe and everywhere that's not America, it's drilled so much into us to like respect the people that made this and respect their style and respect where it came from, that it's kind of like it sometimes translate as don't have fun with this.
Yeah.
Just only do it the way it's supposed to be done and no other way. And I think what's cool about kind of how I'm interpreting it, tell me if I'm wrong, but like, is that there's kind of like, everyone's allowed to participate. You're all allowed to like have fun, play with the shit. We're not going to shut you down. But if you want to be part of the upper circle, you got some work to do, which is a nicer way than saying you either are or you aren't. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, no, 100%. I feel like a lot of what we consider OGs, I mean, they are elders in the New York community in terms of Litefeet, but a lot of them, like, dance is not like their main source of income. So for them, they're not too anal about like how certain things are done, because it's like they're like everyday people.
Yo, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't know if this is a private conversation, but I had a conversation with an OG, not in Litefeet, in a different style. And he now lives in a different country and he is working like a full job. Like he has like a normal job, right? And I was asking him like in private, like, so what do you think about like the kids, the way this stuff, you know? He goes, I love it. I don't care. Like, it's cool. Like, it was just no negativity towards any. He's like, I don't care if they change it up a bit, they do some different stuff. Like, so what? They lose some of the original. Yeah, okay. Like, but I was like, it's so interesting because it's like his like income isn't based on him being needed. He knew he was like a bit. He's like, yeah, I'm not like, you know, they do things different from how I used to do it. Whatever. But it's like, it's really interesting. It's like, cause he's like, I got my shit. I'm like working, I've got this job. And it's like, he didn't have to be needed as like a source. So he was a bit more open. Now, you know, we can debate whether that's good or bad and for the style. And if all the OGs were like that, things might go left. But I was just like, I find this really interesting because now I see the difference of the people that are like more active, but also are more relying on their income from being the OGs. You know what I mean?
And that can kind of like shape your reality around like how you want things to be structured.
It's like you can't be objective because you're like, but if they do that, they're not going to need me anymore.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like with Litefeet, it's a lot more easier because the community is always there for you. Like the Harlem Day Parade will always be there for all the elders to go out there and have their time. And to be honest, sometimes like the technicians don't really shine in the parades because it's like, not everyone wants to have fun, and you hear like trying to be all technical, and everybody's like, "Bro, we just trying to party." So everything has gotten to a place where everyone knows their role in the community and the culture, and everyone knows like where you have to pay it forward if you want to be in certain spaces. And it's really about being there. Like sometimes I know a lot of people can know like a million things about Litefeet and hip hop, but it's like, what I like about Litefeet is that to be in it, like you actually have to be in the areas in the neighborhood. Like I can't really say the same for hip hop because I know a lot of them, especially in today's time, it's like very studio based. A lot of older dance styles is very like you got to learn it in the studio. I mean, with the exception of maybe like I know the animation community and stuff in LA. Like you can go there and like there's a community there. And in Crump, there's like communities in different places where people have like these hubs and these spaces. And even to a degree with the Litefeet community here in London, I remember when I first came to Lifefest, I was like, yo, y'all got like a space. And what I liked about it a lot was like, it was children and it was kids that can grow up in it.
Yeah.
But to me that for someone coming into a dance community or any kind of culture, when they see that there's children there, there's parents there, and there's community there, it's a lot less like easy to just be like, oh, I'm just gonna take some steps and go, because you may go there and not learn anything. You may just get a plate of food and people leave you alone. Yeah. So you really have to just be in it and just really figure out where you are in it. A lot of what makes like Litefeeters even legendary in our culture sometimes isn't even dancing. Like we have like legendary filmmakers, people who just like brought cameras out and gave us more high quality videos. We have legendary producers, people who just made like really good music for us to have. And even just like legendary event hosts, like Dr. Rich with T-Night. Like he doesn't Litefeet at all, but he provided a space for us to even have it. And those people kind of like also go into the world of like Litefeet legendary, you know?
Yeah, it's like you kind of create your own ecosystem, I guess, and everyone helps everyone.
So
and
I think from that vantage point, like, because all those things exist, the responsibility of like being present in that culture is so much more important than speaking on anybody outside of it. Like the amount of time I would probably take to like talk to like every country about what's real Litefeet, like my culture would be going through some stuff. And me in certain points, I don't have time for it. So I end up just prioritizing like, all right, what does my community need, you know, and making sure that they're good. And it's not like it's a job either. Like I'm not every morning waking up like, what does Litefeet need? It just naturally happens. Like I can be on the train and see Litefeeters and like they exist almost in my everyday life, even when I don't want them to be.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, and I think it's interesting the idea of it spreading and going to different countries, because I think like we can kind of see these things that like we're told it happened with popping or hip hop or house or blah blah, but we can see it happen live with Litefeet. It's like I remember a time when in this country no one knew what Litefeet was. I remember a time when no one knew what hip hop was, but like no one knew what Litefeet was at all. And now it's like you can't, like you throw a stone and you hit a Litefeet dancer. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really interesting to see that change or the growth and like how it spread and stuff. I guess like what I would find interesting maybe is like, I don't know if we brought this up last night or we've talked about it before, I guess, but like how and when a style can like evolve differently in different countries. Cause I feel like that's something that I find it really interesting, because it's like, maybe I use this example a lot with grime in London or in the UK, right? So it's like we had, obviously rap came from the States and hip hop culture, but then when it came here, obviously there was rap and people that did like UK rap, but with grime it was like it coincided with a few other things and it all kind of made this very unique culture, which is like so uniquely UK. And it's I mean I could talk about that shit for ages because I love it, and this is like my era of what I grew up in, but it's like I guess it's like the music Litefeet, you know what I mean? It's like
so the funny thing is that I remember when me and Karen first met, like I'm like a hip hop head, like just musically like, and culturally. Funny enough, like before I was dancing, I was already into like just hip hop stuff heavy. Like a lot of my friends used to clown me because I would be like in mad older genres of hip hop, and they'll be like on like Lil Wayne. It's like till this day I haven't listened to like a Lil Wayne album full out.
Oh, for real?
I haven't listened to like a Kanye album full out. Like not on purpose. It's just like I was always so busy like listening to older stuff.
Okay.
But I remember the first time I heard grime. Like the first record I ever heard was the Another Level, when I showed it to you. Did it to Another Level. Double S, I think his name is. And then the Kano, P's and Q's.
That was the one. Yeah, I was trying to think that.
That's like a legendary
So it's Kano, P's and Q's, and then it was Skibbity and Double S, Another Level.
Okay.
And those are like the first two things. I'm like, yo, what is this? And then I remember it took me through a whole like, I would see like grime wave, and then I would see like jungle stuff and like drum and bass stuff.
Exactly.
And like I just have like a whole bunch of stuff on my phone. And then when I met him, I'm like, yo, y'all still listening to stuff like this? And then he's like, bro. And he started putting me on to stuff that I didn't even know. Like, we need some more girls in here. You know, And I'm like, listening to this, I'm like, yo, they still make this music. Because I was totally like oblivious to like if that was still going on. And then Jules would put me on this stuff, and I'd just be listening and getting like reacclimated with grime. So it's funny, like I really, really like grime music, and even just like jungle, drum and bass, and like all the stuff that comes out of like UK music for sure. Yeah,
because I think what I find interesting is it's like that. I find a lot, like with the dance styles, I think a lot of times what happens is like it comes, let's say here, or we learn it, and it's like a lot of people will try and like keep it as if it was done in New York or in America. It's like, I have to do it how they do it. And I think for me, if we're talking, this is what I've always said, but like, if we're talking hip hop culture, one of the, in my opinion, one of the like core principles of it is like bringing yourself to the culture and not pretending and being fake. Like, you know, I think the culture wouldn't have happened if people were being fake. Like there was all the influences that came together because these people were like, hey, I'm this, I do this. And then it just went boom and made something, right? Same with grime, where it's like, you had the like, you know, the raves and the MCs and that type of stuff. You had the people that were interested in like actual hip hop and rap, and it all kind of turned into this thing like from drum and bass and garage and all this type of stuff. So I don't know, for me, it's like, okay, if this is like a side tangent a little bit, but like if I'm learning a style, what's important to me is like, if I'm going to learn this style, I need to find a way to make it true to me. Like, even if that means bending the rules a little bit, and we've had so many like back and forths over the, but this was always my thing. I just couldn't articulate until I got older. But like, is that like, it doesn't feel right to me to dance how the style was created, because I'm not there in that era, in that place. So being where I'm from, I want to be like, okay, but how does a guy from London dance to this song or do this style to grime or whatever it might be, right? But I guess the thing is, like, say with Litefeet, let's say now, is like, all right, what's the way that, like, what are those core principles that, like, that Litefeet dancers here could do to be, for you guys to be, I don't know, maybe this is already a thing and tell me if I'm wrong, but like for you to see it and be like, oh damn, London has its own way of doing things and they're growing it in a different way. And then it's, or like France has its own way of doing things. So it's not just, you know, and I don't mean this to demean the whole of Europe, but like, so that it doesn't become just like a shittier copy of the States every time you see it. And it becomes equally good, just different. You know what I mean? Or is that even possible is my question maybe.
So like, I was going to say, it's in a like very early stage. I feel like it's happening.
Okay.
Because when I met these guys, 2016.
Yeah.
There's already been a connection with Japan since 2011.
Okay.
So the Japanese guys have been going back and forth, first for Harlem Shake, and then they found out about Litefeet. And then by the time I found them, there's already Litefeet battles happening in Japan. There's scenes, different cities, different communities. And at one stage, they had like a monthly event every month. And I was like, wow, I wish I could like have that. But the thing I would get on repeat from all of the guys I was meeting was like, they're just becoming us. They're just us exactly. Name-wise, using similar or the exact same names or whatnot, dressing the same as them, doing the exact same rounds as them. They said like different, like I'm not going to say any names, certain Japanese people would come to the sessions, film them doing their exact stuff, and then basically just take the, like, not even just the foundation, but actually people's signatures and...
Right. And I guess in an effort to be true to the...
Yeah, but obviously, to me, as like more of a hip hop dancer and a popper, when we think of Asia, we think of them, especially like China, Japan, Korea, that technique-wise, they're on it, but they do look very American rather than having their own thing. Whereas like European hip hop is already doing its thing, popping is already doing its thing. So I was like, right, I need to learn it, but I don't need to be them. Yeah. And sorry, microphone. Then because I came into Litefeet through Team Rocket, Crybaby, Mr. YouTube, but more from Team Rocket side already. Rocket are kind of known for being the like nerds that are going to change the game. Like they focus on textures, musicality, time, like just
real specialists.
Stuff that Litefeet still, even now, there's people that don't have those conversations of like, how would it be if I did it like this? Like, so I met them and thought that was quite normal. Then I met other Litefeeters and realized like they're just in the thing of like, how fast can I do it?
Right. Yeah.
How many times can I do it? Like, and so it was like, well, they're changing the rules of what I've learned, what Litefeet is already. I can change the rules as well. And just from my side of like, I'm less into animation than Kinen, but I still like to have I love fixed point, waves, isolation. So then it was like, right, I already have this stuff which I use from my old popping days in my hip hop.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to put this into my Litefeet, cool, calm, like, but then my struggle was then when it came to me doing a judge demo or in a class and people were like, oh, can you show us a demo? Like, I was always then like, well, I don't want, if these people have only seen Litefeet through me, like, and I had this conversation with Kinen before, like I didn't want what I'm going to do because of how I want to dance for what they think Litefeet was. Sure. So then I would always go back to dancing more, getting light. I would go back to more old school, traditional, trying to dance like that. And then it's like, oh, cool. Can we do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, we can do this because I actually prefer to dance like this. It's just like in those spaces of like, this is a platform to showcase the style. I was always in my head like, the style isn't known enough. I should just do it as is rather than do what I want to do with it.
Well, I mean, we even see that with stuff like Nyako was kind of saying it, but like that it's like there's a lot of people that think that like the way to do hip hop is like how Nyako dances or like how Feist dances, and it's like
I mean, it's the same as you.
What?
You how you teach isn't how you dance.
Yeah, 100%. That's true.
It was almost that.
But maybe like it's different because I would demo how I dance. I just when I teach,
I'm saying you like because you demo it because you know people have seen it. For me, it was like
they have it right.
Some of the people who come to my class are trying it and seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I was like, like I can't just demo it how I want it. Well, I could have done, but it just made me feel a bit more.
Which I get as well. Yeah. But you were saying like how you said you think it's already happening that the style is starting to like have a maybe a London flavor.
There's defo like whether it's a UK thing or just a European thing, because in styles we think more about the extra elements of the body and movement and space and directions and levels. We already think about it with our other styles. So I think Litefeet dancers here think about that, and that's different to the majority of New York.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, please, and everyone at home, I don't know anything about Litefeet, so but like I feel like when I see European people do Litefeet, it's way more like because of the way we battle, there's more of a certain flow to it. Whereas I feel like when I watch the few things that I've seen of like people in America, it's like you were telling me a bit as well about like kind of the way that they see things, but it's like there's more opportunity to like stop and start and like even like setting up tricks and stuff. It's like you'll stop dancing, set something up. Whereas in a battle, it's like here for pretty much any style, it's like you can set up anything you want, but you have to keep moving in some sort of flow and rhythm. Whereas I think you guys is more like sectioned, and there's more like it's almost like a more performative element. Like we're less performance based.
So we made a joke about that last night when we were talking about how like nowadays Litefeeters in New York, they prioritize just the thing that's gonna make them pop.
Okay.
Whereas when I first came into Litefeet, like that's what made shoe tricks good, was that you did all of them. You did the whole set to the music. Like the trick, you did the trick like rhythmically, like like you actually like set up the move. And what was even more intricate back then, and unfortunately a lot of the footage is gone, is that 90% of shoe tricks, the goal wasn't to catch a bunch of crazy moves, but it was to do the sequence and end with both shoes back on your feet. That was the thing that made it, because then you could just go back on your feet and back into
carry
your
on.
moves.
And it was a flow in that.
Whereas as time passed, it got more lazy, and everybody just like, as long as I catch it here, I don't care. My shoe could be like 5 feet away from me, as long as I get that lock in. Whereas before, they prioritized like the build-up move, the constructed move, the big move, and then the move that's gonna get the shoe back on the foot. And that was a shoe trick combo back in the day.
But is the way it's done now maybe also because like maybe have the shoe tricks got more ambitious, so it's harder to keep that
people
flow?
Don't even shoe trick anymore now. They just go to the hat, and the hat almost, unfortunately, it seems like a more lazier trick style, because now it's like, all right, I could just flip it, catch it on my heel, I can like juggle it around and catch it here. Whereas the shoe, it was something that about the shoe that was a lot more personal to Litefeet, in my opinion.
I haven't really seen that.
It definitely had something where we used to prioritize like just being proficient at every catch, because you wanted every catch to be clear. And no one really wanted to, again, catch the shoe lazy, and then we were dealing with ending it back on the foot. So I think the trick style in Litefeet kind of like downgraded. A lot of tricksters now, especially the hat trickers, they may disagree. They may feel like we're doing more intricate things, and it's a conversation to be had. It's all still very good and very talented, but I do know that the standard for being a trickster back then was like, when I used to watch shoe tricks, I used to be like, yo, how is this happening? Not even just a move, but how seamless things would just go back on their body. Like a dude would take his shirt off and then pop his shirt back on, and he's back to like normal dressing. It's like, wait, how did that happen? So Litefeet tricks were just, they had like a level of finesse that went with the dance, which is something that a lot of the dancers in the UK and in Europe that's getting into Litefeet now, they carry, because they're coming from that background of being in those dance competitions. I do think that what I like about what you said is there's a place for beginners. I always used to turn people away when they never did Litefeet before and came to me like, hey, I want to learn Litefeet. I'm like, all right, like how long have you been Litefeet? And it's like, oh, I just started. I'll be like, yo, Crybaby's over there, you know, or like Solo's over there. Because for me, I rather someone start at the very beginning, assess what it is that they like about it, and then if they end up back at my doorstep again. Okay, let's start from where I'm at.
Because you like work in a specialist way, or what was the reason?
Because I work in a specialist way. I got to a point where I realized that like I don't personally, and then again, what's even more specific is that the same way you all may feel like as life eaters from the UK, we're not from the home of it. There was a point in time where life eaters from Brooklyn didn't feel like we were the home of the Bronx because it was a very uptown dance.
Okay.
And then a lot of how Brooklyn just moves in terms of how we carry ourselves. I mean, we're heavy reggae influence. At the time, there was flexing and bruck up, so everyone is very like melodic in how they carry themselves and their demeanor. So going from a very melodic, chill, relaxed environment to like it like took a lot of Brooklyn dancers for a loop, because now we have to be this static dancer. And a lot of the uptown didn't really resonate with like what Brooklyn was trying to figure out. So we felt like damn, are we doing this right? And it got to a point where some dancers eventually started to specialize. Like K-Shakes realized like, okay, Litefeet may not be for me, but I really like shaking and specialize in shaking. For me, I realized like, okay, I can shake. I've seen I've done shaking in all-star battles and people love it, but I know there's like 50 other shakers a million times, not even better than me, but more proficient at living that than I am. I know people that bad one that live it, like dudes getting tattoos on their neck saying bad one. Like, I don't think I would go that far, you know?
Yeah.
I may like shoe tricks, but I got to a point where I just got too comfortable with buying Vans. Adidas started to up the price. We used to be able to buy shell toes for like $10 because they weren't a high commodity in terms of footwear anymore. Like Nike Shox was in. Flight posits, foam posits, ain't nobody want no shell toes back then. So you can go to like these old boutiques and literally get like $10, $15 shoes. Sometimes you would just steal stuff because it was so like unvaluable. People didn't want them.
Yeah.
But once they started upping the price to like $80, $100 for a shell toe, I was like, yeah, my shoe trick days are over, man. Because to first, you can't buy your size, because shell toe specifically, sometimes Stan Smiths, the sizing you have to either half size down or full size down if you're trying to wear them. If you're trying to shoe trick in them, you got to double the size down, because you're breaking them in and then you're stretching them out to be malleable for you to do tricks. So if you get your size, you're basically going to be walking around in like floppy shoes after you done broke them in. Sometimes you would have to microwave the shoes to like loosen them up. And that, if you get your size, is over. Like you're basically wearing like grilled cheese on your feet, you know?
Yeah.
So that whole process, like I kind of grew out of that. So shoe tricking kind of like, I stepped away from it, although with these Vans now, I've constructed them in a way where like shoe tricks may come back. But I realized for me, the priority was, one, the footwork, because I was just always like repeating that feet first line in my mind, and just like the term Litefeet, and always coming from that era of people trying to figure out what Litefeet was. Plus going into like the animation world, like as much as I loved like the illusions and the unrealness of it, it was a bunch of like just stationary people just like moving around, like, and I always felt like there was something silly about it that I didn't like personally, and I felt like people were prioritizing learning all these high skills to just like laugh at each other. And I found nothing funny about it. I thought this was like the illest thing I ever seen. So for me, it's like, okay, how do I keep this illusionary aesthetic but prioritize it in a way where I'm not making a fool of myself? And then that's when I was like, oh, I just take everything and put the information in my legs. And I felt like I was doing a service to it, because I didn't really see much people even doing that, like trying to animate with their footwork or move in an animated way with their footwork. So that kind of helped me create like something that I felt like I was doing a service to Litefeet creatively, because then all these systems Litefeeters can then use if they want to, and like maybe come up with new stuff out of it. It turned out to slightly be some kind of cardinal sin. Like, how do you go from like Litefeet to animation? Like people always like look at me as like, yo, I hate you. Like, you don't dance the way I want you to dance. And I'm just like, but I think it also inspired certain individuals to find their own way, even if it's not animation. And I see that a lot in like Kieran's crew, like, you know, Jay Bullet and Diggy and all them. Like the first Life Fest I went to, they were all doing original moves.
Was that at Jackson's Lane?
Nah, the 2018 Maryland.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, Diggy's. I remember Diggy's
second one.
I remember Diggy's first round, like distinctively, and I was like, like where did he think of this process of like how he was changing the levels? I mean, obviously we connect with like him being locked in and being on the time and using some of the basic vernacular, but how he presented it and how he carried it, never seen a life leader bring it from that vantage point. So instantly they already had like a unique approach that they can just expand upon, and I think I welcome that personally. I think Litefeet as a community welcomes it as well, but I also think it's because there are certain things in Litefeet that are very, very traditional that are done in certain times. Like people all in at certain moments in time. People milli rock at certain moments in time. So those movements and those steps, there's a dance that we used to have like connected crews. So like Team Rocket will be a crew, but then there'll be a dance hall crew called Reconnection, and then there'll be another Litefeet crew called the Avatars, and we'd all link up and we'd be like AVA Rocket Connect, like just all three power crews just linking up together. And the Avatars, they had a specific dance called the Bionicles, and it was like a step that they would do instead of revving up to like distinct themselves from other Litefeeters. Instead of revving up, we going Bionicle. And I carried that dance with me for a while because I was a part of the Avatars, but as I got older, I was like, I can't see myself doing this anymore. Not because I don't want to do it, but because when I did it, it was at a time when I was young and things were so sacred amongst me and those people that did it. It's like, this isn't for everybody. So it becomes this traditional thing that like, if I'm with them and we all having a good time, yeah, I'm throwing that out. Or if I'm amongst friends, I'm throwing that out. But I don't think it's something that like the world needs to do to be Litefeet. So I feel like we have a good, almost like a good bank of like, these are sacred things that people can do in ceremony, and these are things that you can expand on. And I think that opens up the creativity to where people in the UK, I find them asking themselves like, all right, what are our sacred dances? And then they make up their sacred things, and you see it. Like I know this, I don't even want to butcher it, but I remember the 2v2 that Big H and Jay did. They did like specific, unique steps that like look very exclusive to them. You know, and even the way they're like built, they have like a specific like
frame and
like aesthetic to them that I'm like, if they grow old and they keep that, that's gonna be their thing. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be something that young Litefeeters, if they continue to keep going in London, could be like, that's our traditional thing.
You know, it's like, it makes me think of when we first started learning, not we, but when I first started learning hip hop. Because we, you know, I was just talking to Nyako as well about the like period when nobody fucking knew what hip hop was here, or everyone was like, what is it? What's new style? And when we started to watch a New School Dictionary and like learn a bit more, and it started to come over here a bit more, it was like, okay, we have this idea of like the bounce and the rock and stuff, but our vocab moves are social dances, right? So like in the New School Dictionary and Elite Force, we're kind of teaching like these are some social dances that we would do, and they in the New School Dictionary they're like telling stories about like this was what people would do in the club and blah blah blah. So I remember like me and Mus like spoke about it loads when we were first doing hip hop, because it was like, okay, if the vocab is not these, not only these specific dances, but it's the idea of social dances, should we not then, because we were out, this is when we were like 17, 18, 19. So this is when we were partying, and it's like, so we're out doing these stupid dances and having fun, and we have our own stuff that's like funny stuff or stuff that we do to have fun. And it's like, only we do it, like kind of what you're saying, but it was, we didn't know that it was our sacred stuff. It was just like, oh, this is our fun stuff. So we're like, yeah, shouldn't we bring this stuff in? Isn't that still like our vocab and like foundational vocab of the style? Because if the foundational vocab is social dances, we have social dances. We got a ton before I even knew what like the Running Man or any of this stuff was. I knew our stuff. Yeah. So it's like, I kind of resonate with that a bit of like being like, yeah, I want to keep my stuff that's sacred to me and bring that into the dance, or my group of friends that only we know. And I understand what you're saying, because what we like, you know, when I teach hip hop, I'm not really going to teach you like something that me and my friend would do, because who cares about me and my friend? But for you guys, it's like you're pioneers. So then it's like when you're sharing stuff, people do want to know, like anything that you ever did, like, oh, you sneezed in the tissue once. Where's that tissue? Can I like sniff it? And it's like, if you bring in stuff, you have a choice to make. I was
literally going to say that, like, for years I'd be like, yo, what's that thing? And it was the Bionicle.
Right.
And it was like 4 or 5 years in, and they finally taught me what a Bionicle was, like, for ages. And like, Yeah, it's
But
one of
it's-
those things. Like I was like, I
Yeah.
want to know it. And as soon as it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to teach that in class or something like that. It made me want to learn it even more.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I love the fact that it makes it exclusive, and I'm not gonna shoot nobody in the foot if they do the barnacle. Like it's all good.
Yeah.
But I do feel like by me saying like let me focus on things that people could expand upon,
Sure.
it helps the uniqueness more. Because
Yeah,
if I just show
yeah.
you the barnacle, then you just doing the barnacle, and
Which
you just doing steps.
I think speaks to, and I'm not talking about Litefeet. Again, I don't know about people in Litefeet. I'm talking about the styles that I've experienced. But it leads to people, how do I say this gently? Like exercising some level of narcissism and being like, I'm going to teach all the stuff that I do, because when you expand on that, it means you're expanding on what I did, as opposed to what you're saying, which is the less it's the selfless version, which is like, I'm not going to teach you the stuff that would make me all over the world. I'm going to teach you the stuff that's going to spread you doing this style all over the world, which is dope.
And finding your own way.
Exactly.
To be honest, I feel like the one thing that I like about just at least the people that I'm around right now with Litefeet is that we're always having conversations about where can they go. Like
that's dope.
One of the people I've trained, he actually came to me specifically, shouts to my boy A-Legs, and wanted to learn like the grid walking stuff, like the foot tuts and like the geometric floats. And
Can I just say before you carry on, anyone that's listening to this pod that hasn't seen videos of Kinen, please go and check him out. It's fucking dope. I just remember there might be people that haven't seen your videos. Like, you have to check his shit out. Like, fucking
this
sick.
is where you need to say the names, because I'll tell people in class, they're like, oh, can you give me some names to watch? And I say the name, and then they come back to me like, oh, I couldn't find any videos of Kinen.
It's like
it's because he had a million aliases.
A million spellings.
So if you look on YouTube, you're not going to find...
Some girls in my high school gave me the name K Slick.
Okay.
I didn't even make that name up. I remember when I first started dancing in high school, it's like, what you gonna call yourself? I was like, I don't know. You gonna be K Slick? I was like, all right, I guess. And it's spelled numerous amounts of ways. A friend of mine named Lock-In Lance, who I thought had like one of the best Litefeet names ever. I went to him and I was like, yo, I want to work on a different name because I'm just not feeling K Slick anymore. And at the time, especially in New York, everybody had these like post-apocalyptic names like Twin Destroyer or the Onslaught or Havoc. Like
very Crump.
Crump, Flex. And I was like, y'all want like a super like dark evil name. So I was like, I'm gonna be the Silencer. But I remember when I thought about it, me and him had an idea of like, you the silencer, but you're gonna actually like move like a silencer. So instead of like you doing a bunch of like super heavy lock-ins, you do all of these crazy moves, but when everybody's getting ready to lock in with you, you just like.
This is what I was gonna say, because it suits your dance, man. That name, like, it's really like the way you dance, because it's like you're still like dangerous as shit, but it's not in a way of like blowing up. It's just like. Boop.
So that was like the idea at the time.
Yeah.
But then when it got to a point where I was like, okay, like I can't be walking around like 40-year-old. I'm a silencer. So I was like, you know what? When EXPG actually hired us, they was like, what you want to be known as? And I was like, just put my real name. Just put Kinen.
Okay. And
the funny thing was that when they put it down on the flyer, so many people was hitting me up like, yo, man, you changing your name again, yo? And I'm like, bro, that's my real name.
I'm stopping changing my name.
And then it got even crazier. I remember there was this one battle that I judged at EXPG, and I was just dancing in the cypher, and it was like, yo, give it up for Kinen. And then some dancer came to me, and he was like, yo, man, like, you so dope, but like, you remind me of this dude named Silencer, like, he's sick. Well, I don't know if you met him. And I remember I was listening to the dude. I was like, word, nah, I heard his name before. Like I got to meet him, yo.
You're like, let me go get him. Hey, nice to meet you.
But all those names, you can research me from there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but people got to see the shit. So you're saying about the foot tuts.
Yeah, so Legs wanted to learn some of the footwork, and I would share things with him. But then I remember getting to a point where I'm like, yo, man, like, you know, exercise the things that like make you unique with it. Like, don't stick with it. Obviously, people are gonna say, "Oh, I know where you got that from," but I really want you to expand out of it because, to be honest, that makes it even better. And then anybody else that ever asked me about grids, like, I mean, as humble as I am, it's really more just I don't really like when a lot of attention is on me, and I also don't like the responsibility of like being the one and only person where information comes from, because then I feel like there's no community anymore. If I'm the only one giving everything, then it's like, You know, where is my time to be a student again? And like, where is my time to like go home and be like, all right, well, how do I want to move when I'm constantly just being the one to share to millions of people? So I always tell people like, yo, you know, like take this little piece and like find yourself with it. Like, don't rely on me. Like, I'm just here to guide you wherever you need to go.
And also come back and teach me what you learned.
Yeah, and show me some stuff. Because I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, even Alex has done with the grids that I would get inspired by, and I'd be like, oh snap, like you touched it a certain way. Even some of my students before that, I had a kid named Soundwave that he was like completely classically trained, like ballet, modern, contemporary. Sick. He went to LaGuardia, and we would sneak into his school to teach him Litefeet. And this dude was like foot all the way out, like all of these pictures, but in Litefeet ciphers.
Sick.
And I'm talking about like, yo, dude, if you can just, I wasn't even like teaching him. I was just saying, if you can do this with the ballet,
game
like
over.
It's over. And he would do it like he created this one lock-in that's signature to him, where he like holds the lock-in and then like does like this 360 spin down, but he does it on time every time he does it, and it just looks like the most beautifulest thing you ever see. But it's like a ballet move that he mixes with it. His flexibility, like honestly, he hasn't got into the grids yet because he's like doing his own thing, but I always laugh at him like, bro, if you got the grids, you be way better than me because of your flexibility. Like, I'm not as flexible as you.
He's got more facility to like push.
Exactly. And it inspires me again because while they're not taking advantage of that, I'm in the lab getting flexible, and then eventually I'm gonna come in, my legs gonna be all the way up here doing grids, you know.
Or even it's like, okay, he's got the flexibility, how can I beat him in a different way? So it's like, it's by him being dope, it pushes you in another way.
And we level each other up.
Exactly.
And I love that about the circle, a circle I'm around, because now we're all being able to kind of help each other, even though I'm looked at as like this teacher or this sensei or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
like
I get really inspired. And then I also, I like the fact that I have the animation thing to lean on, because it humbles me. It like, it feels really good to like know that like I'm not good at something yet, and I'm aspiring to be something, because in Litefeet, I have all this pressure to be K-Slick or to be Silence. That's like, you gotta be the greatest, you know? Like, people see my name on something and they're just expecting like the craziest thing to happen. And some days I just wanna be like natural and
a
just move how I
student
want.
and
So
take risks.
I've oftentimes like took steps away from Litefeet just to be around like an animation community. And I'll never tell them about my Litefeet background. I'll just be like, what's your name? Like, oh, my name's Kinen. Oh, word. Like, where you from? In New York? Nothing. And like months later, dudes is like, yo, dude, like you this big Litefeeter, you ain't tell us nothing yet. I'm like, yo, man, I'm just trying to learn the techniques. You know what I'm saying? So I like that because it allows more Litefeeters to come in and bring their perspectives in. And it's also in honor of like the Litefeeters that came before me with those creative perspectives, because even some of the things that I'm on was off of inspirations of things that I didn't start. Like my boy Top Villain was like one of the first creative with the legworks and like doing all the things. My boy C Boogie was actually one of the first people to actually do some of the foot tuts, you know what I mean? And they don't dance as much now, but they represent an era of like creative minds that oftentimes got overlooked. And I'm kind of like, in some ways, when I do Litefeet, it's like doing it for them, you know, and inspiring more people to come up with more creative ideas to do it for them. And that's kind of why I carry myself the way I do.
But I fucking love that, because it's like you're seeing yourself as a part of something like bigger that you're part of the lineage of, but you're not like everything has to come through me.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, unfortunately sometimes we get that with dancers, but I think this is such a nice way, because it's like like you said, it's encouraging people to be on the same level as you. And I think it's like, it's nice to have a bunch of students, but it's also nicer to have like a bunch of people around you that can inspire you, and you know what I mean? And like, if they're your students and you started them off, fine. But if they can come and show you something, or they can beat you in a battle now and then, it's like, that's what you want. You don't want to keep people below you, I guess.
Yeah,
you know?
That's a fact.
Do you know Jay Style from Montreal?
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, because like, I'm like, I don't know why it's like you're making me think of him, because I was just in Montreal. We did a pod actually, but he's tight with my partner, and like I'm tight with Monster.
Nice.
So yeah, I know him from there. But like, he was talking about foot tuts and stuff like that, and I feel like I would love to watch you two session. Like, if you guys are ever in London, like I really want to film a video of you two. But I feel like you two would be a sick like
that's my boy,
combo.
man. Yeah.
Every
shout
time
out to
he's
Jay
in New
York, shout out to Jay Style. Every time we're in New York, we always connect. When I was in Montreal for Joe, like he was like there taking care of me and Janelle, make sure that we're good. And that's the homie for sure.
You know ATN, the host for Joe? Asian dude.
Yes. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I met him there that day.
His sister is my partner.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So I'm kind of like I'm like an in-law to the Montreal scene. Like I know some of them all through her.
No, that's dope. I remember I have family in Toronto, but I never actually went to Montreal until I started to see that they had a big dance scene there. The dance scene is really
We need to
nice.
add Cozy to that list
Realized
also.
as well, like I went from meeting you lot to Montreal. Remember?
Yeah.
It was to his partner's house.
Oh, that's when you were going the first time.
And then
we had just met then.
Yeah, and she took me to J Style to train. Like she was like, "Yeah, I've got work." Like, yeah.
Yo, small world.
Yeah,
yo.
man. When you said Toronto, it reminded me of Cozy as well. It's like I feel like J Style Cozy. You like this would be like a fire video.
Yo.
Or like even just a session just to see you.
Yo, that's the fam right there as well.
Yeah. She's fucking dope as shit.
It's funny. I always get these weird feelings like. So my parents are from Grenada, and like prior to Grenada getting the independence, like a lot of my family like moved to England.
Oh, okay.
But then even after, a lot of my family like moved to Canada as well. So
Yeah.
to be honest, like even though I'm from New York, like almost like the smallest bit of my family is in New York. Like a majority of them were either in Canada or like England.
Oh, man.
And the ones that's in England, like some of them are really old, so they recently passed away.
Oh, sorry.
But I always make this joke like, damn, like had certain things went a certain way on that island, like I probably would have still been friends with y'all, just like in a different way, just being from
real.
here, and same from Canada. Like I probably would have connected with y'all in some kind of way, either way.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what do you know what I mean about the three of them, like J Style, you and Cozy? There's something that I love about all three of their dance, but they don't dance the same. But just in my head, I'm like, yo, these three are fucking sick. Like, because you know, there's people that it's like, I don't know, this is like a side tangent now, but I'm interested. But like, there's like, I have like a list of people in my head that I'm like, all right, if we did like a world battle and everyone was like, you know, like that you had to like put money on, there's that list. And then there's also a list of like, fuck the battles, like who's just my personal top 10 that I would want to see.
I think there's some sort of like, there's people who are sick, but they're so competitive that like, there's a level of arrogance that we let people get away with because we know they're so good.
Okay.
And then like these guys are all mad humble, but they're still at that same level of being competitively sick.
Yeah, but
And
for example, like say with Cozy, like she's got that edge. Like she's not humble in a sense of like, I mean, she's humble, but not in a sense of like, oh, what, you think I'm good? Like she's like, I'm the fucking shit. But like she is. True. So it's you know what I mean? It's not like, it's not arrogant like, no one could ever be better than me. Yeah. It's probably, I feel like you, even just talking to you now, like you maybe have a similar attitude where you're like,
I mean, all of them, they don't have the level of arrogance. So some dancers, they know they're the shit. And when you go to an event and they're not open to chat and meet people and what.
It's more
all
like the
them,
personal.
They chat to anyone.
Sure, yeah, for real.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I didn't even know Cozy was good. Like Monster's the same. They fucking got me. Like the first time I met Monster, I was at Eurobattle, and he was chilling with us, and like we didn't see his prelim, so we chilling with us. He's hey, I saw you guys in Vegas, but we didn't see him dance there either. And we're hanging, and like we were like super beginner then, so we thought he's like a beginner with us, and then like. He passed and we were like, yo, you passed the prelims, man. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And we're like, yo, that's fucking dope. And then he was like, oh, you got Jadawi like first round. Oh, sorry, man. Like, and then they battled and we were like, that's that mother, like, he's fucking dope. And then Cozy's the same. Like I met her through, I was in Toronto for Breaking Convention and someone, I don't remember who hooked me up with Cozy, but they were like, oh, I've got a friend in Toronto, like you should, and we hung out like the whole day, chilled, blah blah. And then when I saw her dance, I was like, holy fuck. But it's like you don't have that attitude that maybe I'm used to of like, you know, someone's good before you see them dance because they give you that attitude maybe. Or
that's
like,
not enough for real. I feel that way. I remember the first time I came to London, we were at the center where you had Life Fest at, and I'm just sitting there getting inspired by like all the dancing that I'm seeing in the session, like. And then like a couple of people went to Karen like, yo, why is your friend so mad?
Oh,
but
for
like,
real?
I was telling him, I wasn't pissed. I was just like really like, yo, this scene is dope. And I guess I was just super hyper focused that like
one of the normal Tuesday sessions. Like back in the,
oh, okay. Oh, you were just chilling, watching and stuff?
Yeah. But I felt like in the moment, like I was present to the cypher, but I wasn't present to anybody around me. So I don't know if someone was going like, hey, like, nice to meet you. I was like...
And you're just like, focus.
But I feel like I had that moment, like that first time in London, because then we went to the grill and I remember like the food was just like so good. And I remember Clara was like, yeah, so like Litefeet, you tell me about Litefeet. And I'm just like this, like...
I don't want to talk about it right now.
like, yo, bro. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's funny. Yeah, shout out to Cozy and J-Star, man. We
Yeah,
need to get
facts.
you guys all in the same place. I don't know if I had anything else that I'm curious about. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff we could chat about, but
Yeah.
we got to wrap at some point. Anything else you want to add, Kieran? Do you want to explain your outfit today?
By the time this comes out, this man would have been battling here.
True.
So check that footage.
Well,
Caught by the capsule.
I would maybe say that the battles will be up before this pod.
That's what I mean.
Oh,
Yeah.
So by
yeah.
the time this is out and you're watching this in the future, which we're in the past.
Whoa.
So just head over.
I'm going back
and
in time
and
after
watch
Jam
that.
Festival. Anyway, when I go back to New York, I'm going backwards. So
So you're doing the exhibition battle against Omni,
yeah.
and then that's it.
Oh yeah, I think after
There's
just like
okay.
judging certain things. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, it's gonna
Are
be.
you're here for Saturday? Are you
Yeah,
entering?
I'm here for Saturday.
Entering any of the? Would you enter pop in or not really?
Oh no, I mean for me it's like when I got into animation, I never really saw myself like popping.
Okay.
And I mean when I would like be so enthusiastic about the animation thing, because how I even got into it, essentially, I was like a teenager, and this guy named Tiny Love, he's like one of the pioneers in like finger tutting and stuff. He used to like street perform, and I was street performing him to make some money. And then like he's just like this old Romanian guy, so he came to me. He's like, "Yo, motherfucker, we going to Maryland, we going to Baltimore for an event." I'm like, "All right, cool." He's like, "You got $60?" I'm like, "I can make it." So I hustled, made $60. I was like, "When we going?" He's like, "Oh, we leaving tonight." I was like, "For real?" He's like, "I can't leave tonight." He's like, "All right, tomorrow." So I'm like, "All right, bet." So I meet them at the bus station, and like we're all sitting in the bus. We go to like the hotel, and I'm like, "Yo, where I'm gonna stay at?" He's like, "Oh, they got me a hotel. You just gonna sleep on the floor?" I'm like, "Bro, what?" He's like, "Yeah, everybody's sleeping on the floor." And it was literally like Tiny in one bed, I think someone else in another bed, my friend Eron on the floor, another person on the floor. Like he literally got booked for the event as like a guest and like put all of us in his hotel with him, like unbeknownst to the organizers. So they pick us up and they take us to like this, like they would be going to like this pre-party, but it was a bar and I was a teenager. So I'm like, yo, like, I don't know if I'm gonna get in. Like, will one of y'all drop me home? And he's like, yeah, but I think you're gonna get in. And then the conversation started dimming and it's like, yo, I heard Bob and Andre's gonna be there tonight. It's like, where, yo, Bob and Andre, well, that's crazy. I'm like, yo, who's that? And it's like, oh, you don't know who Bob and Andre is? It's like, oh man, you in for a treat. And in my mind, I just like made a joke, and I never forget this joke because he blew my mind after. I was like, man, fuck that dude. Like I was just in my head. I was just like making internal jokes, just being silly. When I got there, like the bouncer, he was on like, nah, this kid's not getting in. But then Tiny, like literally, like I always will appreciate Tiny for that. He paid the dude like $60 just to be
get
like,
you in.
just to be like, yo, he's gonna stand on the side. He's not gonna drink anything. He's gonna be good. So bouncer took the money, he let me in, and then I saw Bob and Andre dance, and I'm just like, bro, what? Keep in mind, everybody's like doing their thing and stuff like that, but this dude is like on a whole other timing. And I remember asking him a whole bunch of questions to like 4 a.m. about animation and stuff like that.
He's like, why is this kid in here?
Yo, looking at me like, what the hell? And then he teaches this one workshop where he's just talking about all these different things and then like leaves, like goes back to wherever. I didn't even know where he was from at the time. And I'm just like, yo, where can I get this information at? And nobody's like giving me clear directions. So I would go to certain people in New York and talk about like, yo, Bob and Andre, animation? And everybody would be like, yeah, man, because there's Boogaloo and then there's Poppin'. And then I'm like, yo, I just want to know about the animation. Like, who does animation? It's like, yeah, but you gotta learn how to hit and Poppin'.
That sounds like popping.
And I'm just like,
sounds like the popping community.
I'm just like, yo, all this other thing, like, and keep in mind, like, I love popping, like, I got nothing against it, but I wasn't trying to learn that.
Around what era was this?
This is like 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, around that time.
That was, yeah.
And I really just wanted the animation thing, so I would like make it my business to try to like see when he was coming back. He judged one step of game up, and I was like all in his face, like, yo, this is my boy Richie. We trying to talk about animation with you. He was like, the fuck? 2015, I went to Toronto, and then like I would basically just be studying animation and like figuring out what animation was. And then every time someone would try to like shift me the popping route, I would always have like this weird distaste for it because it would always be like, all right, here you guys are. Y'all don't even got like, with all due respect, y'all don't got nothing figured out in this popping thing. Like everybody's always like asking what it is. At least with animation, like there may be some confusion, but it's a clear understanding of like what we're doing here. Plus, I'm a Litefeet. I already got a whole other community to deal with drama. Like,
Yeah,
I
I'm trying to deal with your drama.
I ain't got no time to be doubling up. So I was like, nah, you can miss me with that. And I would even be telling certain, like, there'll be like a lot of poppers that I would talk to, and I'd be like, so you mean to tell me that you guys are sitting here and are afraid of like being controlled and illusionary and like magical, all for the sake of just like wiggling around? Like, for me, growing up in the hood, like, that's the thing that you prioritize. Like, if I was on the block and I seen some dude looking like crazy, like in my neighborhood, like the street legends, people like Storyboard and stuff like that. So you looking at people that's like super unreal. Like, that's the things in the hood that you like, nah, that looks crazy. If I ever see somebody like on my block, like the whole hood would be laughing. At least in my
No,
era.
but this is also the shit that I would say that there's not a lot of people that would get into popping that weren't the first thing they ever saw, unless they were already a dancer.
Right.
If you're not a dancer and you come in through popping, you have to come in through the illusionary stuff. You come in because someone did a wave or a glide. Like, it's not the foundation.
Yeah, and again, it's all respect to like the boogaloo style and electric boogaloo and the stuff that's there. Because like, as I got older and matured, I learned like the history of it and like why it's important and stuff like that. But at the time, that was my mentality. Is just like thinking of a kid growing up in the street. Like, the first thing I'm doing when I see that, I'm probably gonna laugh because of how silly it looks.
But also, it's like what you were saying about the Litefeet thing, and then Litefeet and like getting like, it's like the I guess maybe the other stuff is the other popping stuff, and then it's like, all right, if you want to go into this technical stuff, cool, but you're kind of saying,
exactly,
I'm trying to just be in this part.
And it was something about at least the youth in my day at that time. I was talking about this to y'all as well about the parks. Like, as a child, people prioritize basketball so much. Yeah, you know, like. To be a boy or a male and be a dancer, it's like, dude, you dance, you know what I mean? So you tried to do the most serious, like, gritty, grungy, raw thing as a dancer because you didn't want to be associated with like some goofy kid. Because you're
already seen as more goofy than a basketball player.
All the athletes in school, they're like, oh yeah, you about to get like, hey. Like they clown you, or like, oh you pop lock, you know, like everything was jokes. But if you came into the cafeteria and you was on some control or you on some serious shoe trick or footwork stuff, then people would be like, oh nah, I can't front, you know. So from that vantage point, I never really got into popping in that regard, and I always liked the illusionary stuff. So then like people like. But then if there was like ever a bridge to like, but if I was to pop, like it'd be something like that. It'd be like the Boogie Frantics or like how Slim would move, or even one of Slim's students, my boy Metal. Like, I remember
the guy with the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yo, is he your friend?
Yeah, that's my boy.
Can you put us in contact? I really want to talk to that guy. He's fucking dope. Like, I really rate what he's doing with the YouTube stuff. That's another conversation for another time. But like, dude, I rate that guy.
Like, I'm not even gonna lie. If we ever had a conversation about popping, and I feel like because he does the YouTube, a lot of people like they take him for like a silly dude who just reviews battles. Yo, this dude can throw down, yo. Like,
I mean, if you listen to him talk, besides the jokes, he must know what he's talking about. To say the stuff that he says, like, all right, you're making jokes, and this is what I love because he's really entertaining. But the stuff that he's saying, I'm like, oh yeah, you know your shit. Like, you're not just some clown, you know.
And the thing is that we were talking about this earlier about like people that like lived the culture and then got into it. One thing I learned from him is that popping or just like the older styles, when I saw them, I'm like, okay, in my mind, there's like the 70s and the 80s, then there's this big gap, and then there's all these top 16s. But for him, he grew up in it. Like, he's from Long Beach. Like, people like Tabo, who like people like fly out from other countries, or like scour his YouTube for videos, like pay millions of dollars just to stand in a garage parking lot to learn dime stops with him. Like, this guy literally went to this dude's house and trained that dude for almost 15 years. Like, Slim trained this dude for mad time. Like, he had the best of the best, like, around him. And took that and made his own approach and, like, developed his own style, developed his own systems. And, like, he's, like almost, like, the only person that I ever see, like, it'll be, what's the battles in L.A.? The freestyle sessions and stuff like that, and he would just be like, "Yeah, I'm not entering this," but not on some like cockiness, but just in his mind, it's like, I want to be a part of things that's gonna push our art form forward, because his mindset is about like pushing things forward. And that's why just us as dancers, like we connected so much. Every time I'm in LA, like if I'm visiting Janelle's family, like there's a certain point in time where I'm like, yo, we out to Long Beach, and me, him, and my boy D-Pain, like really dope hip hop dancer. We like train for hours, and then after that we watch a bunch of like case closed mysteries, some Detective Conan. We try to figure cases out, and then we just like literally like politic and talk about dance and just talk about the craft all day. And to be honest, like sometimes I'm there and I'm just like, yo, bro, I wish this would never end, man, because the perspectives that are like brought up, and then like when I leave them, I go back to New York or I go back to any space, and like I'm just mad enthusiastic about labbing, you know. So from that vantage point, I feel like I would love to do popping if there was like a priority for like the magic. But I think because of that, I stick to the animation stuff. And I like what people like Yaya's doing. She has like an event that's going to be happening soon that's going to be strictly for the animators and stuff like that. Sick. So I'm going to be leaning more to that. But for the popping thing, I guess like I'll take a step back. And don't get me wrong, I know there's a space for it where like poppers who do animate, they find like a nice middle ground, like the AJ Megamans and stuff like that. But I just feel like, I guess it's gonna get more into like, I guess a historical or like, I guess a political statement. But I feel like so many of the greats in the quote unquote popping world, like prioritize the magic and never got acknowledged as much as the people that don't prioritize the magic, or even the events that don't. And then when they die, it's like, oh, these popping legends, you know what I mean? But like when they were alive, like, they were never considered that as often as people like yell their names. And, you know, I could be out of place for saying this because I'm not in the popping community, but it's just something I observed, because I remember going for information like, yo, who's this? Who's that? I remember they were talking about Tangerine for decades. And I'm like, anybody got footage? Anybody got footage? And I'm like, oh, no. And as soon as she died, everybody throwing footage out. Like, look. I'm like, bro, what?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so to me, like, those things just like make me like, you know what? I can enjoy popping, but to participate, I feel like the community, if they care about it, would have to prioritize the magic, because then it would just make no sense for me. I'll just be in there looking dumb, and then somebody will come in and just clown me and then start rolling, you know, and in my mind I'm gonna be laughing like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but bro, I think Lee and Abe would love this guy. like my two best friends are poppers, and it's like it's like I'm hearing them speak. Like what you're saying is like they wouldn't articulate it like you, but they really feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, but who am I? I'm a life eater, you know what I mean? So at the same time, I also feel like there's nuances to that conversation that, you know, when people start going off about it, I like take a step to the side.
I think what's still valid is like, even if there's nuances and maybe, I don't know, maybe there's parts you missed or whatever, but it's like, it's valid that like that was you stepped into the popping community for like a half a second and went because of all this stuff, and that was your experience. So it's like, even if there's things that maybe other people would debate with you, it's like us as poppers, I guess, or like people as poppers need to be like, well, this is someone's experience stepping in and trying to do what we do. So maybe there's ways to make room for different perspectives or something, you know?
Yeah. Shout outs to like Boogie Frantic and Slim and them, like, and Metal and all the folks that like
those guys are dope.
Keep the magic in the pop.
That's a good list of people. But all right, man. Well, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I super appreciate this. Love you sometimes.
Yo, is your mic on?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. We had mic problems, guys. I don't know how much is
interview is going to be him just like saying nothing. You got to put the subtitles.
Yeah, Will gave us the thumbs up. Yeah. I just put it on screen, all the questions asked. All right, well, yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. If you're a regular Capsule listener, definitely check out Kinen if you can find him on the different aliases. If you're here through Kinen or Kieran, but probably not Kieran, check out the Capsule. We have a weekly podcast. We got a bunch of content. It's all on the YouTube channel. We have everything on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you listen to a podcast, we're there. And yeah, we cover a lot of the stuff that happens in the UK and worldwide. And yeah, that's it really. So subscribe if you like it.
If you made it this far, you get the Easter egg to there may be a platform being released for people to learn Litefeet in a new way.
Oh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
That's all they're going to get for now.
Well, let's end the podcast on that. See you later, everyone.